Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Siege of Avalon. Before we continue on with our current quest, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at how our character is shaping up at the moment and why we are using the current statistics, spells, and equipment that we have. First, I'll look at the spells that we have. We haven't looked at many of them so far, mostly because they haven't really been of much use. Starting from the right here, we have the Shadow spell, which we picked up from Flandrian in the first chapter. It adds 50 to stealth, and its duration increases with additional points in mysticism. That'll be useful in the next chapter when we're doing the scout portion of the game. Next in the list are the 3 elemental resistance spells: protection from cold, fire, and electricity. You can only have one of these active at a time, and each of them increases your resistance by 50% to that element. However, it only shaves what you don't resist from items. So if you have, say, 30% resistance from items, that leaves 70% damage left over. So the spell removes another 50% of that, increasing your resistance by a total of 35%. So it doesn't just add 50%, it shaves whatever you would have taken left over by another 50%. Same for the protection from all spell. Works in the same way, only it gives you 25 resistance to all 3 elements rather than 50% to one of them. Again, we haven't really had much use for these, mostly because most of the enemies have done physical damage. The only ones that didn't were spellcasters, and you generally have to be sure to take them out before they're able to do anything to you at all. So these spells haven't been of much use to us so far. Next is the Hold spell. This one has been very useful to us. Right now it's up to 5 seconds. As we put more points into mysticism, the duration should increase. 5 seconds is a pretty good leeway, though. It should give us plenty of time to kill whatever it is we're trying to kill. So that's fairly useful. Next is the Heal spell. It heals us by 5 points plus a total of 11% of our total hit points. So that's also a fairly useful spell. The percentage heal that it does increases with mysticism, but the static amount stays the same. We've been using that on and off for when we do get hit and need to patch up our hit points. Our mana recharge rate is to the point where we can keep casting it, and we don't really have to worry about our mana stock all that much. The next group of spells are our attack spells. First is the Frost spell. We haven't been using that much, mostly because it doesn't have the same area of effect quality that the Fireball spell has. Its maximum damage potential is lower than the Fireball spell, but its minimum is also higher, so it's a lot more consistent. But again, it isn't very good at dealing damage to multiple enemies, unlike the Fireball spell, which tends to hit a couple of guys at once. The Fireball spell actually does heat and crushing damage, so enemy armor is actually able to shave damage off of the Fireball spell, making it a bit less effective in that sense than the Cold spell. Generally, enemies don't have much resistance to the elements, but they might have physical resistance, making the spell a little less useful, but still our choice spell at the moment. And of course, we still have our Charge spell, which we got at the beginning of the game. It does 1 to 5 electric and 0 to 3 heat. It's still not effective, it's never going to be, so we haven't really been casting it. Finally is the Aura of Iron spell, which increases your resistance to piercing, crushing, and cutting by 50%. This is very useful, especially if you happen to be a warrior. You would definitely be using this a lot, since it really tops off your already very high resistance rates. You definitely want to be using this. If you're a mage and you're going through the game and you're having trouble getting killed by enemies, maybe archers or just enemies that get too close, you should try casting this before a major battle, and you should find you're able to survive a lot more effectively. So that's our spells so far. These are all the ones that you can get by this point. We'll be getting more later on, but none at the moment, unfortunately. We also acquired quite a few awards and titles. I'm not going to go through them all, but As I mentioned before, we've been getting all the ones that come across us, mostly because, again, they're very cheap compared to their cost. If you tried to purchase these same things manually on the character sheet, it would cost you quite a lot of training points compared to how much it costs us just to buy them from the trainers. So, once again, no matter who you are, always get all of the special training that you can find. Hopefully you'll find all of it. It's fairly easy to find. The only one you might have trouble finding is the Chapter 4 trainer, but I'll be going over that later to make sure you do pick it up. Anyway, that's all there is to say about that. Next is the inventory. We have quite a few items here, so I'll get through them as quickly as I can. Here's a pair of black pants we found. Those aren't really doing anything, just wearing them for their sake. These are the black pants of the shadows we found on the corpse of Balthazar, down in the catacombs where the lurkers were. And it increases our magical abilities quite a bit, without giving us much restriction. So these are a very good pair of pants, definitely going to be wearing those. These are the old magic boots we found in the Village 4 during the first chapter. They had 5 mana and no restriction, so they're not too bad. We may find better ones later on, but for now we're sticking with those. This is the rotting black robe we got from the body of the Lich. Has quite a bit of restriction on it, but adds 25 to our mana, so that's rather helpful. This mystic black robe we purchased from a merchant in the Inner Keep. It's quite expensive, but at plus 5 mysticism and plus 10 mana, it's definitely worth it. And next is the Heart Guardian, and this is the only real piece of armor that we're wearing. Its restriction isn't actually too bad, which is why we're wearing it, and it offers quite a bit of protection. Also increases our constitution and our healing rate, so it actually helps our casting a little bit, in the sense that it lets us recharge our mana more quickly. So that's fairly useful. Next is the Troll Girdle. Adds 2 hit points, 25 hit points and plus 2 healing rate. It isn't the greatest item since it doesn't offer any physical protection, but it doesn't have any restriction either, so it's not too bad. Usually you want to wear it. If you're a warrior, you might be a bit puzzled by it, because while it is obviously gives you quite a few hit points and healing rate, it also doesn't give you any physical protection. So you might want to consider what it is, whether or not you're wearing it. Usually I end up going with it just because it is a rather helpful thing to have. Anyway, what else do we have here? The Mystic Claw. This was in one of the hidden rooms in the castle, Inner Keep level 2, or Inner Keep level 1, and it adds 30 to mana, which is why we're wearing it. We're not using it for the damage, but rather for the large mana stock it gives, and reduces our restriction as well. That's always helpful. We have 2 of these Mage's Companion. They add to our mana stock and to our charm rate and perception, which is always a good thing. We also have a Book of the Elements, which increases our elemental resistance by 25% each. Those are always good. We have a plain leather hood that isn't doing too much for us, and we have a set of Wizard's Braces, which increases our resistances quite a bit. We also have the Hands of Truth, which we found in the caves, in the caves beneath the castle. They increase our resistances a fair amount, and also buff all of our stats quite a lot. So those are definitely a good pair of buffs to have. That's it for inventory, and the last thing is to look at is our character stats. We haven't really been pumping these all that much, and we have quite a lot of training points stored up. We're also going to be spending a lot of them on the specialized trainer here in this chapter once we gain access to him. But in the future we're going to be pumping a lot of points into mysticism to increase the effectiveness of our spells, and quite a few into stealth later on in the 4th chapter in order to complete it as it was meant to be completed. We're not really going to pump Constitution that much anymore, since we don't have mana problems. We don't have problems casting consistently without any shock to our mana, so that's not much of a useful ability to us anymore. That's it for now. I'll continue with the quest in the next video. Just thought I might update you on our status, since we haven't been taking much of a look at it in quite a while. Okay? That's all for now. See you later.